here!
Well, so much for the Tyr is Kratos theory. All my friends say it's probably for the best, as going for the full time travel grandfather paradox treatment might just overcomplicate the story, and they're probably right. But it's not like I could ever actually agree with people for a change, so I maintain that the Tyr is Kratos thing had potential, not least because time loops are built into Norse mythology, and into God of War 4 specifically, what with Loki meeting his son way before ever siring him, and the world serpent being an Ouroboros, similar to the one in Soul Reaver, symbolizing an endless cycle of renewal, death, and resurrection, the end and the beginning of everything in a continuous, unbroken time loop. So you already have all the elements in place to perform one big time travel mindfuck and blow our minds into the 5th dimension, but far be it from me to overcomplicate your work, Sony. Speaking of, Sony's philosophy remains presentation, presentation, presentation. The visuals, the set pieces, the handheld style with one unbroken shot, the music, gods, the music, the killer mocap animation and voice work, and the subtle cinematography. All of them come together to enhance the somewhat tepid substance underneath, and hide the fact that Kratos is just kinda there. Christopher Judge's acting elevate him to true godhood, but as a protagonist, God of War Kratos is a pretty passive, reactionary one. Things threaten him and his son, and he does his best to achieve and maintain the title of kinda okay dad of the month. Sometimes. And I call this God of War 4 Part 2 instead of God 5 because even though it makes sense to keep the combat, the camera, the side characters, the structure, the tools, and the pacing that we've established in 4, I was kind of hoping to see something new or different, some new deviation or experimentation, be it with the camera angles, the combat, or something else. But then I also don't want this game to get released when the actual end of the world comes, so I'll take what I can get. I don't know, maybe I'm just salty because I'll have to face my old nemesis again, the camera. I'm really not a fan of the close over-the-shoulder angle because it makes things harder to see, distance harder to gauge, and makes me turn around with the speed, precision, and efficacy of a 90-year-old looking for the glasses that are already on their nose. At least games like Arkham City have the decency to zoom out a bit when you enter combat. Pair that with the fact that I'm a PC master race keyboard and mouse only cunt who handles a controller the way a seal handles a lightsaber, and you get the most embarrassing Let's Play videos ever made. And yes, there's cool new moves and the kid's finding his groove, but what I want to know is what kind of game world will we get to ravage? Because the last one was a set of scarcely populated wastelands where the existence of a lot of characters as well as most of the Norse pantheon were implied but not really shown that much. And I think that worked for the last game. I don't think it works for a game called God of War Ragnarok, War of the Gods, Massive Battle of the Elders, and the End of Days. If we don't get to see Asgard this time around in all its splendor and at least more than 3 characters on screen at one time that you can actually talk to, I'm gonna blame it on COVID and move on. And another thing, I always surmised that we would one day see Atreus all grown up and fully settled into his Loki persona, but apparently not, since Ragnarok reportedly concludes this Norse-inspired duology of games, that is to say, this is the end of this story. So what the fuck? I always imagined the Norse saga would take 3 games to complete based on how they set it up, but apparently not. So we're gonna presumably have Loki, who's still a young teen, go through his entire arc, pay off plot threads we left dangling at the end of 4, meet Odin, potentially murder Odin and most of the other gods, and then fuck off to ruin ancient Egypt all in one game? The definition of overreaching is 2 things, trying to blow oneself and this. So what about Thor? Well, what about him? He's big, he's red, he has the hammer, so far so good. I'm not sure whether the belly is mythology accurate, as I can't find any references to it in Norse folklore. Maybe they were like, hey, people loved Fat Thor in Endgame, maybe we can ride the wave, not realizing that the wave died by the time they showcased this game. But everything else about him seems fine. He actually is depicted as a ginge in most tales, and is described as a burly log of a man, a far cry from Mr. Buy My Center app. And you have to remember too, that this is a twisted version of Norse mythology where most of the gods are dicks, so I'd say Fat Thor works for this one. And that's it, I'm done. Did a video. I like this unholy eldritch pact we've made. I put forth a video, you hit the like button, I'd say you're definitely getting the better end of the bargain. Anyway, I can't wait for Kratos to put on a jingasa and fuck up Japanese mythology.